The auction yard smelled of dust, hay, and desperation. The sound of voices echoed across the wooden rails, men calling out bids, the crack of the auctioneer's voice cutting through the afternoon heat. Among the line of horses tethered in the sun, one stood with her head lowered, eyes tired, her coat dulled from neglect. Her name was Daisy. She was bigger than the others, taller, broader, with muscles that had once carried weight and strength. But here, in this place, her size wasn't seen as power. It was seen as a flaw. "She's too big," one man muttered. "Not worth the feed." Another laughed. "A waste of space. She won't fetch much." Her owners had brought her here because she didn't fit their image of sleek perfection. While younger, slimmer horses were paraded forward with pride, Daisy was pulled roughly by the rope, stumbling as she entered the ring. The auctioneer forced a smile. "All right folks, here we've got a mare, strong, but, a little on the heavy side. Who'll start me off at 200? Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Daisy shifted uneasily, her ears twitching, her heart pounding as if she could understand every word spoken about her. The crowd's indifference felt like knives cutting into her spirit. Finally, a cruel voice broke through. "Sell her cheap, or send her to the meat man. She's no good for anything else." Laughter rippled. Daisy flinched. The bids barely trickled. Her price dropped lower, and lower still. She was being sold not as a horse, but as a burden someone needed to get rid of. Her world, already dim, grew darker. But then, from the back of the crowd, boots crunched against gravel. A tall cowboy, his hat tilted low against the sun, stepped forward. His shirt was faded from work, his hands rough from labor, but his eyes were kind. "I'll take her," he said simply, his voice steady and sure. The auctioneer blinked. "You, what, at that price?" The cowboy nodded. "Doesn't matter the price, I'll take her." The crowd whispered, confused, some even scoffed. Why would he waste his money on that horse? But the cowboy didn't care. He walked straight into the ring, past the murmurs, past the laughter, and laid his hand gently on Daisy's trembling neck. She tensed, waiting for another harsh tug or sharp command. Instead, she felt warmth. A gentle rub, a voice that whispered low and calm. "You're safe now, girl," he murmured. "You're just right for my arms." Daisy froze, then let out a long, shaky breath she didn't know she had been holding. He untied her rope, leading her out not with force, but with trust. She followed, uncertain but willing, because for the first time in a long time, someone treated her like she mattered. Days turned into weeks. The cowboy, his name was Luke, took her back to his ranch, a stretch of open land where the grass was green and the sky stretched white and endless. He brushed her every morning, speaking softly as he worked through her tangled mane. "You're strong," he'd tell her. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." He fed her with care, never rushing, never scolding. When he saddled her for the first ride, he didn't push her to run fast or carry heavy loads. Instead, he let her walk at her own pace, building trust step by step. Daisy's coat began to shine. Her eyes grew brighter, and slowly, she started to believe what Luke had told her, that she was more than too big, more than a mistake to be laughed at. She was worthy. But one evening, Luke was riding Daisy along the ridge when a storm rolled in. The rain came hard, the wind howled, and on the trail below, a truck had swerved off the road, caught in the mud. A family was trapped inside, 2 children crying, their parents shouting for help. Luke urged Daisy forward. The ground was slick, the mud thick, but she didn't falter. While smaller horses might have slipped or refused, Daisy planted her powerful legs and pulled with all her strength. The truck groaned, the tires spinning, but Daisy kept going, inch by inch, foot by foot, until with one final surge, she dragged it free. The family stumbled out, soaked but safe, tears mixing with rain. "Thank you," the mother whispered. "We could have died out there." Luke only smiled, patting Daisy's neck. "Don't thank me, thank her." And Daisy stood tall. For the first time, she wasn't ashamed of her size. She had saved lives because of it. Word spread quickly. The big mare, who had once been mocked at the auction, became known as the horse who braved the storm. People who had laughed at her now looked with admiration. But none of that mattered to Daisy. What mattered was the cowboy who had seen her worth from the start. That night, as Luke rubbed her down in the quiet of the barn, he whispered again, "See, girl. You were always just right. Always." Her ears flicked back, and she nudged him gently with her nose, a gesture of trust, of love. Sometimes, the world will try to convince you that you're too much of something, or not enough. Sometimes, they'll put a price on your back and call you worthless. But all it takes is one person who sees your true value to change everything. And like Daisy, you'll realize, you were never too big, or too small. You were always just right.